Alex, people think of car maintenance like a trip to the dentist, something you put off until things start screaming. But to me, that first turn of a drain plug is like clearing your throat before a long speech. It's a fresh start for the engine.
A very messy, black, gooey, fresh start. I mean, let's be real, Tiger. You're talking about poetry, but most people see a puddle of sludge and a ruined driveway.
Well, that's because they treat it like a chore instead of a ritual. If you go in there with the wrong mindset, or worse, the wrong socket, you're going to end up with a face full of 5W30 and a permanent stain on your ego. I remember trying to change the oil on my first old sedan in a gravel driveway during a thunderstorm. I didn't have a socket set yet. I was using a crescent wrench that had more wiggle than a nervous puppy.
Oh no, I can see where this is going.
I rounded that bolt off so smooth it looked like a ball bearing. I ended up having to chisel the plug out. That's a long walk of shame to the auto parts store, let me tell you. But that's how you learn that the tool section of the manual isn't just a suggestion.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today. Doing it right so you don't end up with a chisel situation. We're looking at the full fluid suite, but starting with the golden child, the oil change.
Preparation is the difference between a 30-minute win and a 3-hour tragedy. You need your catch pan, obviously, but more importantly, you need the right pan. Don't use a shallow baking sheet unless you want to paint your garage floor in industrial obsidian. Get one with a spout.
And the gloves. I see you wearing them now, but I've seen your hands look like you've been mining coal. Is this the new Tiger?
Every year I get a little smarter and a little less fond of scrubbing my cuticles with a wire brush for 3 days. Nitrile gloves are a godsend. Also, check your manual for the oil capacity. There's nothing more humbling than pouring in 5 quarts only to realize your truck takes 8 and you're now stranded with a half-empty crankcase.
Okay, let's talk about the jack. I've seen some sketchy setups in my time. What's the safety protocol before we even think about touching that plug?
If you're not using a lift, you need a floor jack, and this is non-negotiable, jack stands. I don't care if your jack is brand new and painted gold. Hydraulic seals move like clockwork until the second they don't. Support the frame weight on those stands. Give the car a good earthquake shake while it's up there. If it's going to fall, you want it to fall while your head isn't under the oil pan.
I've seen people do the snap move where they jerk the wrench. You're more of a lean into it guy?
Slow and steady. You want to feel the crush washer let go. Once it's loose, I like to use my fingers to spin it out, keeping a bit of inward pressure so the oil doesn't start weeping out until the very last thread. Then, the lightning fast pull away.
The ninja withdrawal. I've mastered the move where I drop the plug into the pan of hot oil and have to fish for it like a disgusting game of bobbing for apples.
We've all been there. Pro tip, if you do drop it, just let it sit. Don't go diving in while the oil is 190 degrees. Your skin doesn't care about your pride.
While that's draining, we have to talk about the filter, because every time I think I'm done, I realize the filter is tucked behind the exhaust manifold, in a place only a Victorian chimney sweep could reach.
Manufacturers love to hide those things like Easter eggs. And here's the most important rule of the filter, the double gasket trap. Sometimes the old rubber O-ring sticks to the engine block instead of staying on the filter. If you screw the new filter on over the old gasket, you've created a double gasket situation.
Which sounds like extra protection, but it's actually a recipe for an oil fountain.
Exactly. As soon as you start that engine, the pressure will blow that seal out and you'll lose all your fresh oil in about 4 seconds. I saw a guy do that at a track day once. He left a trail of expensive synthetic oil like a breadcrumb path all the way to the first turn before his engine seized. Always wipe the mounting surface with a clean rag to make sure it's bare metal.
And the pre-fill? I've heard mechanics argue about this like it's a religion. Do you fill the new filter with oil before you put it on?
If the filter sits vertically, absolutely. It saves the engine those few seconds of dry running while the pump tries to fill the canister. If the filter sits sideways or upside down, well, unless you want to shower in it, just lubricate the rubber seal with a dab of fresh oil and spin it on.
Now, let's talk about the when. Consumer Reports says the old 3,000 miles rule is basically a myth now for modern cars, right?
It's a relic of the era when oil was basically just dinosaur juice and hope. Most modern cars with synthetic can go 7,500 or even 10,000 miles. But, and this is a big but, oil ages even if you aren't driving. If that car has been sitting in the garage for a year, that oil has been absorbing moisture and oxidizing. It's like a bottle of wine. Once it's open, the clock is ticking.
So, if you're a Sunday driver who only puts 2,000 miles a year on the car, you still need to change it?
I'd do it once a year regardless. It's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever buy. And while you're under there, don't be a one fluid wonder. Check the transmission fluid, the coolant, the brake fluid.
Brake fluid is the one that scares me. Because if I mess up an oil change, the engine dies. If I mess up the brakes, I might die.
A fair distinction. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It drinks water out of the air. Over time, that lowers the boiling point of the fluid. You're going down a mountain, your brakes get hot, the water in the lines turns to steam, and suddenly your pedal feels like you're stepping on a marshmallow.
Okay, that's officially terrifying. Is that a DIY job or a take it to the pro job?
It's DIY able if you have a friend to pump the pedal or a vacuum bleeder, but it requires patience. You can't let the reservoir run dry or you're sucking air into the ABS module, and then you really have a headache. Same goes for coolant. People forget that coolant isn't just for not overheating. It has anti-corrosion additives. If you let it go for 10 years, it turns acidic and starts eating your radiator from the inside out.
So, what's the final check before we pull the stands and call it a day?
Run the engine for a minute. Check for leaks around the plug and filter. Then, and this is the part people skip, shut it off, let it sit for 5 minutes so the oil drains back into the pan, and check the dipstick one last time. Sometimes the filter soaks up a half quart you didn't account for.
And please, for the love of the environment, don't pour the old stuff down the storm drain.
Don't even joke about that. Pour it into the empty jugs your new oil came in and take it to any auto parts store. They'll take it for free. It's the circle of life, Alex.
Look at you, the Mufasa of the motor pool.
I just like the feeling of knowing that for the next few thousand miles, those pistons are sliding on a fresh coat of velvet.
I think the takeaway here is that maintenance isn't just about preventing a breakdown. It's about knowing your machine. When you're the one under there, you see the small drip from a hose or a frayed belt before it becomes a catastrophe on the highway.
Exactly. Getting your hands dirty gives you a shop sense you can't get from a dashboard warning light. My final word? Don't rush. The moment you start trying to beat the clock is the moment you cross-thread a bolt. Treat the machine with a little respect, and it'll return the favor when you're 100 miles from nowhere.
Nicely said. Now, can you help me find the blinker fluid reservoir? I think mine is low.
Get out of here. I'm not falling for that one again.